It's Monday, the 29th of April, 2024. Welcome to the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, 5 big stories to get us going for the week in 5 minutes. Let's get going. Story number 1. The threat of higher interest rates in Australia after last week's surprisingly high inflation reading has done little to hurt the housing market, with auction clearance rates staying pretty strong over the weekend.
There's definitely a growing feeling that the next move in interest rates isn't as certain as it was before those inflation numbers last week. They came in at 1% for the March quarter. As AMP's chief economist Shane Oliver said, sticky services inflation will leave the Reserve Bank cautious and still wanting more evidence that inflation is under control. Dr. Oliver initially expected a rate cut in the middle of the year, but now he thinks that at the next board meeting next month, the bank's board will debate whether a hike is needed. While he doesn't think it will happen, the central bank could reinstate its tightening bias and explicitly say another rate hike is now a high risk.
So markets are pricing in no cuts till next year. And as you said, John, economists are talking about higher rates, but home buyers just don't seem to care too much.
That's pretty right. Across the capital cities, there were 1,900 auctions over the past week with a preliminary clearance rate of 72.9%, 1.5 percentage points lower than a week earlier, but it's still pretty good. Melbourne came in at just under 70%. That was actually down on a week earlier, but Sydney is flying. Its preliminary clearance rate jumped sharply to be over 78%. In the smaller markets, Adelaide came in at 76%, Brisbane 72%, Canberra 63%, and Perth at 50%, albeit from a small sample size.
All right, on to story number 2 now, and a very serious story. This one, the National Cabinet will meet on Wednesday with a focus on violence against women.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese made an appearance at the No More rally in Canberra yesterday and called for change to the legal system. He said, we need to change the culture and we need to change attitudes. We need to change the legal system. It's not enough to support victims. We need to focus on the perpetrators, focus on prevention. He called it a national crisis, and Mr Albanese will hold an unscheduled National Cabinet meeting on Wednesday to address the issue. There were protests in 17 cities across the country over the weekend, including a very large one in Melbourne, where thousands of people took to the streets calling for immediate action to address the growing rate of femicide.
Sean, story number 3, BHP is expected to up its bid for Anglo American following the rejection of the initial $56 billion bid by the UK-based miner.
Mining analysts expect that the surprise bid last week is just the beginning of a process which will result in a higher offer at some point. Media reports today say BHP spent the weekend working on a new offer. Anglo last week rejected an all-share deal in which it would spin off controlling stakes in South African platinum and iron ore companies to its shareholders before being acquired by BHP. Anglo Chair Stuart Chambers called the proposal opportunistic and said it failed to value the company's prospects. The size of the prize that a takeover would bring is enormous. The new company would be the world's biggest copper producer, third biggest iron ore miner, largest metallurgical coal supplier, and third biggest nickel miner.
Story number 4, Woolworths has more aggressively cut prices than Coles in a bid to catch its arch rival, which is outperforming on both sales growth and market share.
Woolies is the larger of the two, but Coles has been the better performer in recent months. JP Morgan surveyed some 120 private label packaged goods and found that Woolies had reduced its price premium to Aldi. Aldi's the cheapest of all. The others measured as a price premium to Aldi. So it had reduced the price premium by about 160 basis points to 7.8% this month. Now it was 9.4% last month. Coles' premium to Aldi was 7.7%. Compared to 7.9% in March, according to a report in the Financial Review. The point there being that Woolies has cut prices more than Coles. Among the biggest drivers were price cuts at Woolies and Coles of lamb, sausages and deli, chicken, beef, pork, as well as cheese and baked goods. Now, Aldi aims to be between about 15 and 25% cheaper than its rivals. Both Coles and Woolies were provided third quarter sales updates this week.
Last story, Sean, story number 5. This is pretty extraordinary, a little bit grim, but extraordinary. A gold pocket watch that was recovered from the body of the richest man on the Titanic has sold for a record-breaking £1.175 million over the weekend.
The watch was sold to a private collector in the US and is the highest amount ever for Titanic memorabilia, according to the auctioneers. The original owner of the watch, businessman John Jacob Astor, was 47 when the ship went down in 1912. He saw his new wife Madeline into a lifeboat. Rather than try his luck with another safety vessel, the impeccably dressed Astor, who was a prominent member of the wealthy Astor family, was last seen smoking a cigarette and chatting with a fellow passenger. His body was recovered from the Atlantic Ocean 7 days later, and his 14-carat gold Waltham pocket watch engraved JJA was found. Quite the story, Michael.
Yeah, it really is. There we go. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Monday, the 29th of April, 2024. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And if 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed wherever you listen to podcasts, or at fearandgreed.com.au, which is also where you can sign up for our weekly newsletter. It comes out every Wednesday. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.